The big names you know. The other guys you've never heard of. Until now. This is Around the Nest. Jay talking around the Blue Jays minor league system.
Hello and welcome into Around the Nest. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. Big thanks to Bluebird Banter and the minor leaguer for spurring this onward. A season-ending series of concluding interviews and conversations with people spread out throughout the Blue Jays minor league organization. And if you followed Around the Nest, you know how we do this. We check in with the broadcasters of each different level. We've got some surprises tucked in. For example, on this time of show, this episode you're going to hear from Pat Malacaro with AAA Buffalo, Tyler Murray with AA New Hampshire, Jim Tarabocchia, A Advanced Dunedin, and I'm also going to slide in there a conversation with an undrafted free agent signed by the Jays in June, Zac Cook. So you're going to get the chance to get to know Zac. But we begin in AAA Buffalo, which hosted the Major League Blue Jays. The PA announcer for the Buffalo Blue Jays was Pat Malacaro, the Buffalo Bisons broadcaster. I asked Pat how he got that position as PA announcer.
For my role, I was only going to work game nights. So I was just going to be the line score guy. And I joked with our friend Ben Wagner that he had to take it easy on me because I knew that the line score was something that was being fed to TV and radio broadcasts. And it was such an important part of how they keep track of the game that it was something that I was really looking forward to doing. And for the first homestand, that's what I did. I came to the ballpark and I hadn't done the line score in 20 years, but pretty easy to do and learned it pretty quickly. And then after the first homestand, I got a phone call from somebody at the ballpark that said our PA guy, Tom Burns, just couldn't do it anymore. He had another obligation and would I be interested? And I've never done PA before. It sounds funny just because it's not a role I've ever had, but yeah, no problem. And, for the final, probably almost 20 games, I ended up being the public address announcer. And I joke, I was the PA guy to nobody, but the players did hear it. They did. It was something that kind of kept them in their routines, and it was fun to do. And we had Jackie Robinson night at the ballpark, so had to read a script for that. And the commemoration of 9/11 with the New York Mets in town was that game took place in Buffalo. So there were a couple of big moments that you usually see the commemorations on TV or whatever. And those were things that I was right in the middle of this time. So, definitely a unique experience in that way too.
About the players knowing you, about that keeping them in routine, it's true. They all know your voice. Were there any stories of players acknowledging your voice once you started?
That's the difficult part was because we're up in the press box, I didn't really notice that much, but it's funny, right? I remember back to spring training, and I did a game with Ben Wagner against the Yankees in Tampa, and the Blue Jay players that didn't go were watching the game, I believe, back in Dunedin, and because the Yankees didn't broadcast the game, we were simulcast over top of the in-house feed, and one of the players made a great play in left field, and I made the call, and the next day I show up to batting practice and I see Jonathan Davis and I had not seen him before that. And he was all excited because I was down in Florida and he remembered my voice and all that stuff. And he was excited for me. So there have been moments throughout the last couple of years. And unfortunately, kind of that separation from the players kept me from, interacting with them at all while they were here in Buffalo. But I'm sure there may be some wry smiles or shaking of the heads when they heard my call the first time.
What were some either your favorite moments or some unusual moments from PA announcing this summer?
Well, my favorite moments were probably Jackie Robinson night and the 9/11 commemoration because how important those moments are and wanting to make sure you honor them correctly. So those were highlights probably for me. Just watching the games in general, seeing the walk-off hit to win the first game against the Marlins. That was exciting. Just things like that. And just PA is different than calling a game. The way you and I call a broadcaster, introduce Jonathan Davis to the plate, is different than how I have to introduce Davis at the plate for a Blue Jays at bat. So, all the timing of all right, the music is playing. Now I've got to introduce him at the plate, or is there a switch? And that's something you're always kind of watching. And as you and I are broadcasters, we know we're always watching the game, watching the on deck circle or the bullpen. So maybe there's a late game switch. And, a lot of the National League teams do that more than others. There were a lot of blowouts, and the Mets at one point made, I think, 4 changes going into a half inning defensively. So figuring all that out, and you've got a minute and a half to do it. Those are some of the challenges, but all the things that I find still pretty exciting as well.
The team does that, and you're like, what is this, spring training? Come on.
Exactly.
Bob Shepard, the late voice of Yankee Stadium, would say that Mickey Mantle was his favorite name to say. Did you have a favorite name to announce over the course of the summer?
I think just the cadence of it and the pronunciation and the emphasis, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. was the one for me. Just a lot of the syllables, and you get excited for the call and announcing him to the plate. And I think that was the one that really sticks out the most. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., another one, just again, because of the cadence and the way that you inflect and say his name all the way through. Those are 2 of the ones definitely for me that immediately come to mind.
All right, the season ends, and now it's the off season. And in a sense, this has felt like one gigantic off season. But now here we go, hitting the off season between 2020 and 21 for you. How are you spending it?
Well, I'm actually, working at home, like most people are, and I know the ballpark itself, with the exception of a ballpark engineer and a ballpark operations associate, is pretty much that's it. And nobody has really been at the ballpark, from when everyone went home. So the ballpark, I got back to Buffalo on, I think, March 14th, and by March 15th, everyone went home, brought their computer equipment, anything they needed to work, and the ballpark really has not been open since then. So with the exception of the Blue Jays obviously playing in Buffalo, but it's status quo. I mean, the folks that are working right now are still working from home, and that's the way it's going to be. And I think, right now, we'll touch on it in a moment, but I think all this uncertainty with what's going to happen with minor league baseball is something that plays into kind of everything right now, because as well as I do, we'd be in 2 months removed from announcing our 2021 schedule right now. And what's the promotional schedule going to look like for the next season? What bobblehead are we going to do? What themes are we going to do for Friday night bashes and things like that? Those are all things that cannot be planned right now because, forget the fact that we don't know what the schedule is, but if you're watching football games right now, I watched the Bills-Jets game yesterday. There's still no fans at MetLife Stadium. There's still going to be no fans at Bills Stadium this weekend when they play the Patriots. So what will going to the ballpark in 2021 look like, and what does that mean for promotions and all those different and the dollars and cents of everything? So I think a long way to answer your question is a lot of the same that we've been doing for the last 7 months is the way I'll spend the next couple, and hopefully once the calendar turns to 2021, get back to the ballpark in downtown Buffalo and get ready for what will hopefully be as close to a full season as possible.
Come 2021, who is a player that you were looking forward to seeing, major league, minor league? It is entirely up to you. Who's a player that you're looking forward to seeing what their 2021 looks like?
Alejandro Kirk is a player for me, and he was on the radar in spring training and with the way he was performing, but to me, he exemplifies a lot of these young players that the Blue Jays have now and made the most of this past season. Not even on the roster to start the year, but found his way onto the roster, found his way on the postseason roster. And, guys like Patrick Murphy along the way as well. And some Thomas Hatch, guys that didn't have big league experience. Some were just in the Blue Jays organization for less than a year. We're finding themselves in big time situations with the Blue Jays in the big leagues in 2020. So to me, that's the exciting part if I were a Blue Jays fan. How do you now see the development and the growth of some of these players who I don't expect to be in the big leagues in a normal situation or close to normal season? But, are they able to go up to the big leagues now for a spell and take in chunks of time and learn more as they go? And will we see some of these players in Buffalo in 2021 and get that seasoning now that they have some big league experience, kind of round out their abilities in the repertoire, whether it's pitching or hitting at the plate. And I think Kirk is a really good example of the potential that the Blue Jays have for quite a few years to come.
Wouldn't that be fun to be Buffalo and to say, usually we're used to promoting future Blue Jays. Here is a once and future Blue Jay, Alejandro Kirk. You've seen him here in Buffalo. You love him. That would be just a joy. He's Pat Malacaro, the master of whatever microphone that you want to put him in front of, the voice of the herd. Pat, thank you so much.
It's great catching up, Jesse. Take care.
Around the Nest rolls on as we continue our way up and down the Blue Jays ladder, just checking in. Let's go to the voice of the people, Tyler Murray with the AA New Hampshire Fisher Cats. Tyler, how have you spent your time without minor league baseball?
I've been sitting by the Zoom phone waiting for you to call, Jesse. So I'm glad
I did. How much ice cream did you eat?
Plenty of ice cream, sure. But no, it's good to be with you, man. It's one of the things I miss the most about no minor league season. No weekly calls with you and the rest of our minor league colleagues on Around the Nest. So thanks for having me in. But still here in the Fisher Cats office. We've been lucky enough to have light enough restrictions and low enough cases of COVID to be able to host a lot of graduations. We had a food truck festival recently. So lots going on around here. And it's been fun to see the response from our fans. Just want to come out and hang out at the ballpark a little bit.
What are your plans for the off season?
Well, the off season, it feels like kind of blended together, right? Like, did the off season begin in
All
April?
Yes.
Yeah.
The off season began last September 2019.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're hunkering down for winter, as you know. It's cold here. It's cold in Michigan, so you're used to what it's like here. But for a lot of us, including you, it's hoping that we can maybe get some college sports going on soon. That could be a fun thing to do. I do Dartmouth football up in northern New Hampshire. They're just doing classic game rebroadcasts, so that's kind of taken up a lot of the time. Finally had time to make my lawn look like someone cares about the grass, so that's exciting, with lots of advice from our groundskeeper here in New Hampshire. So trying to find ways to fill the time because people like us, Jesse, it's not normal working 9 to 5 and then having weekends off. So I'm trying to figure out what exactly to fill the time with.
Evenings. Oh my gosh.
Right.
So many free evenings. Hey, the Big Green, is that the name for Dartmouth or for your lawn?
Wow. Now that was good. We did not plan that beforehand, folks. Okay, that was just off the cuff, Jesse. Very good. Very good.
There was a question that was sent in by Minor Leaguer from Bluebird Banter about the minor leagues. So Mark Shapiro said in a meeting with the media in Toronto that they don't have clarity, that they're waiting on clarity on what the minor leagues are going to look like next year. I think that, speaking for myself, I am also looking for clarity in what minor leagues will look like next year. Looking into your pseudo crystal ball, what do you think we are going to be looking at for the minor league baseball landscape in 2021?
I think if, alternate universe, if the Eastern League was located just in New Hampshire, I think you could probably pull off limited attendance and social distancing. But because so many states are involved, and obviously we're not the only league with this, it's just really tough. I mean, you have to wonder if it's smart to have radio broadcasters traveling on the buses with the teams. I mean, we saw the big leaguers, they just stayed at home the entire time. So I wonder what the situation is there. And speaking of Shapiro, I thought I saw him say the complex will be open soon down in Dunedin, which is great news. And because he thinks it's going to be the best in baseball, state of the art, which you obviously hope is the case, I believe he had a quote saying that they want to focus on player development there. Maybe not so much as they normally would at the traditional, okay, all your development's going to be when you get to Lansing or New Hampshire or wherever. So maybe they're leaning toward, well, if there's no schedule, which there isn't for 2021, maybe at the beginning, maybe do you keep a lot of guys down in Florida? Do you keep guys there training in kind of maybe a workout taxi squad simulated game scenario, which we saw here in the shortened season? I hope that's not the case, but that's something I've been thinking about.
Put you in the ESPN studio, bring in Emma Tiedemann from Portland, and they can show you the camera, the video shots from the complexes, and you can call the Fisher Cats against the Sea Dogs right off your monitors.
You're onto something here. This could be big. I like where your head's at. But, yeah, I mean, remote broadcasting, nobody really wants to jump at it from the people I've talked to in minor league baseball, but it seems to be the direction that a lot of it is going. And, like us, like the players, the minor leagues is about getting experience, getting better, adding to your skill set. I think a lot of us would be happy to be able to say we can do remote broadcasting. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if it goes in that direction.
A remote for the future. If anyone's interested in looking back to the past, I could teach a game recreation course.
Yes. Well, sign me up. I'm first in line. Okay. We're doing subscription services, whatever you want. Like, I'm in. That's good.
You were supposed to have Alejandro Kirk as your starting catcher this year. He's now in the major leagues. What prospect talk do you want to get into?
Oh, man. Well, I've got this pipe dream, which my longtime broadcast partner and friend Bob Littman tells me truly is a pipe dream. It will never happen. I want 10 Fisher Cats in a game. I want 1 through 9 and the starting pitcher. And Alejandro Kirk is a problem for us in that regard. And we're so happy to see him doing well, and everyone talks so highly of him. So skipping New Hampshire makes that a little bit tough, but it's, I think, in a way encouraging. We've seen the last couple of years, if you can do it in AA, like there's very little need, it seems lately, to go to AAA for an extended period of time. So how much more quickly are guys being fast-tracked to the major leagues? And I think we saw Kirk was a really good example of how little time that for certain guys you need to spend in the upper levels of the minors to get a shot at the big league. So that's, I think, for players, very encouraging.
So what we're saying is eat it, Pat Malacaro. All the while that we're also saying Buffalo just hosted the major leagues. So maybe your players can skip up to the majors, but Buffalo is still getting the majors, at least in 2020.
I mean, Pat is the PA voice of the Buffalo Blue Jays. So, I'm not going to tell him to eat anything. That's our guy. But
Santiago Espinal, major leagues. Thomas Hatch, major leagues. Patrick Murphy, major leagues. We got to see that good Fisher Cat effect, though, upon the Blue Jays this year.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's fun to be able to not just rely on the big three, Bo, Vlad, and Kevin, because when Thomas Hatch came here, he was one of those guys where you've been at this longer than I have, Jesse, and you got way more knowledge and confidence certainly than I do. So I saw Thomas Hatch and I was like, man, this guy seems like really good. Like, he seems more than just okay, let's add a prospect, take a flyer on him from the Cubs. He was pumping 95 and it looked like nothing for him. And I was not surprised at all to see him rise up that quickly. So that was encouraging. And Espinal's a guy who I don't think we get under less credit than deserved in the minor league system for developing guys. But I thought that Espinal came in with all the right tools, but nothing necessarily like, wow, he's great at this one thing. But to see him just get really good at everything and move up, I think that's a testament to the coaching staffs here and in AAA, because he's really turned himself into a complete player.
The man who I once crashed on his couch, the voice of the people, radio broadcaster for the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, Tyler Murray. Thank you, sir.
I have a guest room now with like a whole bed, so just come on by. Do that instead. Once we get, the vaccine or whatever. Jesse, thank you.
Next up on Around the Nest, what we like to do pretty much every show is we like to give you insights into who these Blue Jays minor leaguers are. To take a player that you watch, how well they're playing, how everything is going, and you get to actually meet them. So in this case, I'd like to introduce you to a player, and I'm going to read some statistics. In his final college year, he slashed .321 with a .500 on-base percentage and a .623 slugging percentage. Played second base. He was rated the number 8 senior hitting prospect in the country by D1Baseball.com. There's a lot going on. Zac Cook signed as an undrafted free agent by the Toronto Blue Jays. Welcome to the Blue Jays organization.
Thank you. Good to be here.
How did you spend that time between the final day of your season, abruptly, to actually signing that contract with Toronto?
At first it was kind of, after the initial shock of it, it was cool to have, time off in the spring, something, as a baseball player you never have, being able to be with family and friends and teammates regardless of, baseball. But then, after 2-3 days of, this is a long weekend, and it set in that, okay, this is real, we're not going back to play. This is a longer thing than we thought. Just trying to stay ready for whatever, whatever, and whether the draft was still an uncertainty at that point. You didn't know if it was going to happen at all, how many rounds, would there be a minor league season, would, all that stuff. So trying to maintain physical shape and baseball shape with, you know, the lockdowns and facilities being closed and just lack of, you know, availability. Definitely trying to stay busy, you know, lots of activities that keep your mind off of, you know, what could have been, you know, what should we be doing right now? Where should we be? You know, hunting, golf, you know, kind of working out, just kind of being around friends that kind of bring back those feelings, but using it in a positive way to wherever, you know, the quarantine takes us. You know, we were ready for whatever that looked like.
If it's a normal draft, if it's a 40-round draft, you're getting drafted. Then the draft is shortened to 5 rounds. And then there's the unusual period, and here's what free agents are limited to signing for. What was that experience like approaching the draft leading up to you signing with the Blue Jays?
You know, it was a mixed emotion kind of thing. I mean, obviously, every baseball player, every kid dreams of, you know, draft day and hearing their name called and getting a phone call, right? And it was kind of disheartening to know that with a 5-round draft and being a senior, that probably wasn't going to happen for me. And it was a tough decision, to say the least. I had great conversations, you know, with the front office staff and the player development guys of the Blue Jays. I have connections with the organization from past coaches and past, you know, friendships, and just heard unbelievable things about, you know, the way they do business and the way they take care of their players and the interest and the focus they put on developing players. And that's something that really appealed to me. You know, it's funny though, after the draft, there was a 20 or 48-hour dead period where they couldn't talk to you, you know, and I was actually coaching a summer team in Oklahoma City, and I woke up that morning and had no idea what I wanted to do. Didn't know if I wanted to go back to school and finish my master's degree, didn't know if I wanted to sign and, you know, take that next step. Had a lot of good conversations, you know, my parents, my friends, my coaches, the scout, Max Semler, just kind of talking with all of them, you know, trying to figure out not only what I wanted to do selfishly, but what was the right move for me and my family and my career. Ultimately, it came down to, you know, this has been the dream since I was 4 years old. This is something I've always wanted to do. And kind of as we talked about, the progress that I've made and the jumps that I've made offensively and, you know, strength-wise, it's kind of led to this apex, if you will, where this is kind of where I blossom, if you will. You know, I wanted to kind of take that in stride and move on to the next level and kind of see where that takes me. Really hard decision leaving UTA, knowing that, you know, 99% of our club was coming back, and the team that we did have and the additions we were adding. Tough decision, but one that, you know, I didn't take lightly, and I felt that I owed my teammates and, you know, my family, my friends, you know, the seriousness of that decision. But overall, you know, that happy I made the choice that I did. I've loved every minute of it since, you know, that day. Being down here in Dunedin has been unbelievable. An irregular first exposure to professional baseball, I would say. But
this is not normal. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, the guys down here have really done a great job making us feel welcome and at home and valued, and, you know, within the constraints that they have, obviously, you know, making it feel as close to normal as possible.
You mentioned those conversations with the Blue Jays. Before you actually said yes, how many conversations were there?
I talked to the scout, Max Semler, talked to him on the phone at least once a week from the day we shut down to the day I signed. Always in communication, kind of let me know what the organization was thinking, what he was thinking, where I was at, how I was doing, my family, you know, very, very personal, not just the X's and O's of business and baseball. Had a few really good Zoom calls with some of the player development guys, got to know some of the front office guys through those kind of meetings, and just kind of got a broader perspective on the organization, its values, you know, what they respected and what they valued, and just kind of got to know them more as, you know, other than just the team from Canada. And it was really cool to kind of get to know the people behind the names and the titles, and, you know, kind of extend that relationship to something that was realistic.
Was there a moment that you told your family? Was there a first person that you told when you came to that decision? Yes, I'm going to do it.
I was actually in the car. The first person I called was my head coach, because I figured, he deserved to know. I had lots of conversations with him even on that day. Just I'm torn between these two things. I don't know what I want to do, and he was extremely helpful and caring and just excited for me to be able to achieve my dream basically of playing professional baseball. Then my parents, my girlfriend, my family, a lot of phone calls to be made in a very short amount of time, I'm sure, but it was just, I think my dad was more excited than I was. He was just in disbelief for the first probably 2 hours.
Was there any kind of party? Could you celebrate at all?
Not really. It was kind of, and that goes back to the indecision, right? Every kid wants, that party and the family and friends gathered around and hearing your name called and the excitement, all that. And, it was a little subdued for what, I had in my head. But at the end of the day, I knew the people that I care about were happy for me and loved me. And, I was excited and I felt valued. And that's, really what mattered most to me in the moment.
You said that you knew other people with the Blue Jays organization. Can I ask, who did you know with the Blue Jays before suddenly here's Max on you?
Yeah, so my summer ball coach in high school, Matt Young, is the hitting coach in high A in Dunedin. And I've had a really good relationship with him. The summer I played for him, learned a lot from him, loved his mentality and approach to the game. Have maintained a pretty good relationship with him over the last couple of years while I was at school. And then when he took the job with the Blue Jays, kind of stayed in contact, but at a more limited capacity. But then when, that opportunity came around, he was the first person I called, as a friend, as a mentor, as a coach. There's a lot of uncertainty going on. What do you have as far as the organization, as far as me, just I guess an inside ear to kind of whisper in, to kind of get a better look at what it was really like. And he had nothing but amazing things to say. And I'm excited to get to work with him again and wear the same uniform. And I know he's at home with his wife and his kid right now and just had a new baby, but wish he could be here and wish I could get to work out with him, but soon enough.
Next spring training.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now you signed. When's the first time you go to Dunedin?
Probably the weekend after. So draft was on that Thursday, signed on Sunday, and then that next Sunday flew down to Dunedin, did my physical, did the official, the paperwork, stuff like that. Didn't get to see the facility or the stadium or anything like that because of COVID situations, but kind of got exposed to this is where everything is, and being down there and now just seeing Dunedin and the Clearwater area, it's a beautiful place to work and live, and I'm excited to spend more time down here.
All right, so you go through that, you come back. When do you get called back? Because you're there for the instructs right now.
It was kind of an ongoing process. There was conversations of, this is our idea, this is kind of what we want to do. We're not sure logistically when or how, but be ready. So that from I guess the middle of June to the middle of September was just a waiting game of trying to stay in shape, trying to stay ready to go for whatever capacity that looked like. And then middle of September, got the phone call, hey, we're having instructs in Dunedin. Would you like to come down? We'd love to have you. Which of course I jumped on as fast as I could. But then, got down here and it's been a blast.
The guys that you're meeting for basically the first time, how is everybody?
Unbelievable. It feels like I've known, as cliche as it may sound, most of them for longer than 3 weeks, but the coaching staff here and the player development and the S&C guys and the athletic trainers they've been amazing at making us feel like we're a valued part of the organization, that we've been here for longer than 21 days. And getting to know some of the Latin guys and learning Spanish on a fly has been awesome. Just the whole experience. I have nothing but great things to say about it.
Where are you playing defensively?
That is the question, I guess. Kind kind of moving all over in the infield right now. Second, third, short. Haven't really spent a lot of time in the outfield, which is fine with me. Like I said, wherever value is needed, I hope to be able to add that value. But really loving the opportunity to kind of move around and play and work at different positions and at the same time, rather than kind of segment it out year to year, season to season.
Putting your scouting hat on. If I were to say let's say you join Lansing, you join Dunedin next year, you go, watch out for Zac Cook, watch out for who else?
Zach Britton, 5th rounder. He's awesome. Great left-handed swing, can run, can throw it, really good in the outfield, great teammate. I'm glad I've gotten a chance to know him a little more than just, Snapchat and Zoom calls. The pitching staff that's been down here since I've been here has been amazing too. CJ Van Eyck, Trent Palmer, Nick Frost, so all the draft guys have been, very impressive as far as just the way they carry themselves. Obviously their stuff on the mound speaks for itself, but just as teammates and as, professional athletes, I've been very impressed with everybody.
Let me step from baseball to academics. So I saw that your GPA in high school was 4.89. True?
I guess. I don't know.
Okay. So let's move to college. Did you finish your degree?
I did. I finished in 3 years and then was starting on my master's degree, and that was back to the decision-making process. If I'd gone back to school, I would have been able to finish that in my extra year.
Undergrad degree in what?
Double major in finance and economics.
And master's, there's your direction, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Zach, if I may ask, do you have a dream job in that area? I don't know, 30 years down the road after baseball?
No, it's kind of something that I didn't expect to be interested in going into school. Didn't really have anything else I wanted to do passionately besides baseball. As you mentioned, I've always gotten good grades. Kind of school has been thankfully easier for me. But kind of jumping into the more advanced classes, getting into the more economic side, and my master's is in economic data analytics. So geeky number stuff, computer programming, that kind of thing. Job-wise, hopefully I never have to work after baseball, but realistically, I don't know. It's kind of a thing that I've kind of pushed off till whenever this ride ends. I hope that I don't have to work, but if I do, I'll figure it out then.
Just to connect data analytics to baseball, it's not that hard to make the connection. The Blue Jays are big into it. Are you somebody who likes to use those analytics?
Short answer, yes. That was one of the Zoom calls that really pre-draft, pre-signing, that really set it apart, talking to the high performance and the player development guys, and the way they use data and the way that they interpret data and the metrics they have for evaluating players that aren't just based on hits or not hits. So the geeky side, and they really kind of caught on to that and ran with it. Personally, as far as in baseball, I try not to pay attention to it as more than a tool, just because I know that the way my mind works is being super analytical, that can cause issues. But definitely love to experiment and play around with it and kind of geek out over it a little bit.
Let me ask you a hitting question and a pitching question. Pitching question first. You're a hitter. You're going to take on a pitcher that you've never faced before. What do you want to know?
What he attacks with, and what is his punch out pitch? What does he go to when he needs a strikeout? Being a left-handed hitter, fastballs and changeups are always kind of on the radar. You've seen more nowadays, especially in the higher levels of college baseball, moving into pro ball. Guys that are slider heavy. So definitely, what does he attack early with, and what is his pitch when he needs an out? What does he go to?
I'm rooting you on from afar for now, and we'll see if we get to root you on from closer. But that's a ways away. Zac Cook, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Around the Nest rolls on. Let's bring in Jim Tarabocchia, the voice of the Dunedin Blue Jays. Jim, first, how have you spent your time?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I've been staying busy, working on some different projects, one of them being my own podcast as well, and Gosh, that's a lot of work, and I commend you certainly for doing a podcast every week and doing it in season, and how busy that is for you. And I know how busy it is now. And I do all the artwork and producing and recording. So that's been something that's taken up my time and sort of trying to where we stand now. We're recording this on Thursday, October 22nd. Trying to get myself back into the mode of the season 2021 and making believe that it's a regular off season. And, look, it's not a regular off season for really anybody. It's not been a normal year for anybody across the country, across the world landscape. But for me personally, just trying to stay in that mode and that routine, trying to get back to some normalcy, and get ready for the 2021 season the way that I have prepared in the past, and hopefully things to come to fruition, and we cross our fingers and go forward. So that's really kind of how I've been occupying my time, other than still doing my normal stuff, my normal boring life, food shopping and fantasy football, training. And luckily I'm in a state in Florida that did open up a little bit earlier than other states. So I got a chance to go back to the gym and go train and not really miss much of a beat. So I'm lucky in that retrospect.
With regard to looking ahead to 2021, there was a
Mhm.
question that came in from minor leaguer about how each of us sees the 2021 minor league baseball landscape.
Mhm.
It's a very wide-ranging question. That's a very big question. How do you see minor league baseball changing going into next year?
Well, I miss those questions from minor leaguer every Friday. I appreciate that question. Gosh, with the contraction of these minor league teams and Major League Baseball having more of a footprint in the minors, I don't know. I know I'm lucky enough that our team, our Advanced A team here in Dunedin, like Lansing, not one of the teams that are being contracted and are being lost to what's happening. So certainly there's going to be a couple of changes, I think, in the Florida State League going forward with some teams being contracted out. But gosh, I really don't know. Do I think it will become more efficient in terms of player development? I do, especially now. I mean, you heard our team president, Mark Shapiro. I'm sure you did. Maybe audience members did not. But he said yesterday to the media that we're going to have one of the best, I'm paraphrasing here, but we're going to have one of the best training complexes in all the land, in all of Major League Baseball. And he's right. I mean, I've gotten a chance to sort of see what's going on, how it's being built over there. And it is really, really tremendous. And they put in so much money. The county did, the team did, and getting that right. So, and with the way training complexes are, I've noticed with, even with Houston and with Washington, in Palm Beach, those two sharing a complex, and in Arizona with Cleveland and the Mariners as well in Arizona. Doing all my research, I've seen that some of these complexes, if you would have said 30, 40 years ago, that they would look like this, or they would run so efficiently, I think players back then would have been like, well, could we go into a time machine, and could we fast forward to 2019, 2020? Because the complexes are unbelievable. So I think it will be a little bit, the player development side will be a little bit more tighter, especially at the lower levels. So I think minor league baseball will change in that retrospect. I think it'll be a lot more in-house and a lot more hands-on with how teams approach working with those younger guys that are fresh out of high school, fresh out of college, which, by the way, and I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I've always said, I don't want anybody to lose a team. I don't want anybody to lose their job. But I've always said that at the lower levels of the minor leagues, below where you are, even below short season too, because, I mean, Class A is from what I've heard from you and I've heard from players coming to Advanced A, it is very competitive. But below that, I got to tell you, it's a little at times just repetitive. And I think when you just send guys out and you get drafted and then you say, okay, you spend a week or whatever, you sign a week at the complex and you go out to an affiliate, I don't really see how that is helping the player get better. I especially with the draft and being that, you're drafted in June and then you have until early September to play a game, unless you're in short season or play games. I mean, it's not efficient to me. So I think take that time to get players used to it. Even if you're coming from college, your body gets shocked of professional baseball, and mentally you get a little bit shocked as well, because now this is it. This is your job. This isn't college anymore where you have other activities. This isn't high school where you have a million things going on as well. So I think you take that time from June to September to get them ready, to send them out and put them on a roster, whether it be short season or Class A next year, to where I think it'll speed up their development a little bit more. So I think I like the idea of more complex work at the low levels of minor league baseball. And I think that's where things will really change. And I think they'll continue to evolve and get better.
Let me ask you about an individual player
Sure.
who developed. Player who was in Dunedin in 2019 and in the majors this year. Alejandro Kirk skipped over AA and AAA. You got to see him the majority of 2019.
Yeah.
Did it surprise you that suddenly here he is as a bright spot for the Jays?
You know, it's that 2020 cliche. Nothing surprises me now, right? Everybody says it. Everybody from politicians I see on TV to broadcasters to media relations people to, baseball operations folks. Nothing surprises you with 2020. I always knew the talent was there, certainly, but I look across other organizations and see, and Alejandro as well as I do, maybe even more. With Alejandro, he was always mentally, I don't want to say mentally tough, but there's something different about him. Nothing bothered him, ever. I mean, he can go 0 for 4 and you wouldn't even know it. And you hear that so many times with players, quarterbacks in the NFL and especially with baseball players. You used to hear with Peyton Manning, or Tom Brady, the guy could have a horrible game, next week comes out and throws 4 touchdowns. I mean, he did horrible against New Orleans and this year, and then he comes out the next week and does great. I mean, you see it so many times with mentally tough athletes, and Alejandro's one of those guys. I mean, he can go 0 for 4 and you wouldn't know it. So I knew mentally it was all there, and I knew the talent was there. I think the question I had, where's he actually end up playing? And I think he certainly surprised some people, me being one of them, of how well he did at the catcher position, because I think there was still some developing there. I think the tools were there, but I think there was still some small developments that had to be made in terms of blocking, but that comes with experience. And you look at some players that across baseball that went into other organizations, Mickey Moniak being one, that were in other organizations that were sort of thrust into these roles of being at the big league level and didn't do too well. That's not a knock on Mickey. I think he still has some talent, but with Alejandro, that wasn't the case. And I think it kind of separated him from where he is and in his development, where he needs to get to. And I think it helped somebody like him. So I wasn't too surprised. Was I a little surprised by as much success as he had behind the plate, catching, or defensively, I should say? A little bit. Offensively, though, not really. It's funny that my podcast partner, we talked about Alejandro. We talked about his walkout song, and we talked to everything from his walkout song to his shape, to his body physically, to his defensive prowess, to offensively. His defensive prowess, how he was this year, obviously, and to his offensive game, and everything about his offensive game checks out. But what it comes down to is defensively, how's this guy going to do, and what position is there for him at the major league level? And I think there are some real questions answered. Now, do I think he can play at the major league level next year? I think he proved that this year. But, that's a long way off, and we have to see where he will be. The people who make the decisions, I'm saying we, like I'm part of that. I think that people who make those decisions have to be able to evaluate him and see how far off he is defensively, see how far off he is offensively. Was it just a flash in the pan type thing? Will he be figured out offensively? How will he make adjustments? He didn't have to make too many adjustments, in my opinion, at the major league level this year because he was so good offensively. Will he be able to make those adjustments? He really hasn't failed much at any level, which, hey, it's just great at the minor league side. But you're going to run into that at the major league level, and how quickly you can make adjustments are the real separators to staying there and being kind of shuttled next year between AAA, AA, AAA, and the major league level.
Big thanks to you for taking the time. Jim Tarabocchia, the voice of the Dunedin Blue Jays, here's to your continued success.
Oh, you too, man. And I look forward to, we should do more around the nests throughout the winter. I think that'd be That'd be good. I'd enjoy that.
Well, that does it for this time show. Get ready. Next episode, you're going to hear from Rob Fay in Vancouver, Zach Heldon in Bluefield, and another surprise guest or two. We'll see how things go as we wrap things up for Around the Nest this year. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, whether you're checking in via audio or the video all up on YouTube. Take care, and next year, we'll get to enjoy the baseball.